If someone then comes to me and goes, I bet you don't fill that form in by 3 p.m. There's no way you can finish that form by 3 p.m. It will take till at least 6 p.m. That form will be done by 2:30.
So it's fair to talk about why you succeeded so much to get to meet Princess Anne and get your OBE. That's an ADHD journey, isn't it?
Yes. So one of the big achievements was getting a petition heard in Parliament. The ayes have it, which was just the best moment for me. If I'd done that the right way or the normal way, I'd probably still be sat here waiting for it. But I think the ADHD in me wanted to find the shortest route to get there.
What led to you going for an ADHD diagnosis?
A lot of it was to do with getting my son diagnosed. When I was filling in the forms for him, I was going, that sounds a lot like me.
You had some quite major surgery for a woman, and you had your ovaries removed, and the whole thing, that whole journey must have been quite horrible.
I do have to say though, that journey I think was made easier by my ADHD.
Elizabeth Hutton, OBE, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Give us a little bit of context on who you are.
I'm Elizabeth. I'm CEO of a charity called Kicks Count that raises awareness of babies' movements to reduce stillbirth. And I'm a single mum living with my 2 kids in Surrey.
And somewhere in there is ADHD.
And yes, I was diagnosed about 18 months ago.
So relatively recent.
Yeah.
Well, I'll unravel that.
Yeah.
What led to you going for an ADHD diagnosis?
A lot of it was to do with getting my son diagnosed when he was having a lot of trouble in school. And, you know, we thought there was an autism. There was definitely some neurodiversity going on there, or neurodivergence, should I say. And when I was filling in the forms for him, I was going, that sounds a lot like me. Things that I hadn't realised might be symptoms. And I can't think of one now, but there were so many that I was just going, this is really odd. Do I have ADHD as well? And I bought a couple of books and read a couple of books, and I was reading passages to my sister. She was going, they've met you, that is you through and through. And so, yeah, then I just started looking into it more.
And you hadn't looked into it until then. So that hadn't, because that's well into adult years.
Well into adult years, yeah.
It's because of your son.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, not I interrupted you, but I think that's just really, we hear this a lot, right? How many adults are in any one way coping through life? And then I guess this is where I'm going with the question, is actually on reflection, looking back at so many things you've done, both good and bad, if you like, struggles and things that may not have come easily to you, but making sense now with that neurodivergent piece.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of I was given labels. Anyway, not the ADHD one, but I was scatty, I was disorganised, I was flitting around, I was starting businesses here, there and everywhere, and they'd last for 6 months. And people were just like, oh, here she goes again, starting another one. So much so that one of my friends once said, oh, what are we going to do about it? So at Christmas, you could do this. I'm like, oh, I won't still be doing it at Christmas. Like, we know now this is only going to be a 6-month stint. But I think I was given so many labels growing up but ADHD had never been one of them. But looking back, it explained a lot.
We call it the hobby graveyard.
Yes, and that is what my garage is.
We've got a really good piece of artwork of the hobby graveyard. If I can dig it out, I'll get you a copy. And it's quite a seminal piece of artwork that one of our graphics guys, Tom, produced, and it's really quite haunting because it is a graveyard where the ADHD and the investment that goes into those things, and the not just financial, tax. The time. Yes, that's as you say, the ADHD tax, which we've never really discussed that on camera. So yeah, very typical. And those labels that you talk about, mainly derogatory.
Yeah.
Not
nearly
overly
always.
Complimentary.
Yeah, a couple of them were that I would try anything. I would, sort of fearless and things like that. But I did have a teacher actually when I was at school who I don't think it wasn't as well known as it is now, but she spotted something. I must have been 17. She was my geography teacher. And she called me in one day and she said, look, just stop doing homework. It's not worth it. You clearly do it 5 minutes before the lesson. It's not worth my time marking it. It's not worth your time doing it. You're going to sail through the exam, so just don't do it. And that for me was like, oh, I'm just going, oh, I don't have to do my homework. But I think she spotted something that no other teachers did, was that I can cram for an exam and I can sail through it. But coursework or anything that I have to do ahead of time, doing homework just was never
You're a
worth
textbook
it.
woman with ADHD.
I know.
You were just blurting out the story of life for a woman with ADHD rather magnificently. May I ask how old you were when you got your diagnosis? And it's an important question.
44.
44. Now, you shared off camera that due to some illness that you had some quite major surgery for a woman, and you had your ovaries removed, which of course brought about an almost immediate menopause scenario for you, which must have been horrible. And the whole thing, that whole journey must have been quite horrible.
I do have to say though, that journey I think was made easier by my ADHD.
Go on.
So when I got the diagnosis, so it was breast cancer that I was diagnosed with. When I got that diagnosis, and they just said, you're very stoic, you're taking it all in your stride. And I think I just thought, well, yeah, because I'll just move on to the next bit. And I thrive in a crisis. It's almost like, well, this is big drama and I'm going to thrive in it rather than go think of all the stresses and all the problems with it. I just sort of could take it in my stride. And I think that was down to, in hindsight, the ADHD and kind of going, well, what am I going to do with this? Oh, I'm going to raise awareness. I'm going to go and do all these big projects about breast cancer. And so doing that, I think, was done through having ADHD.
Built up self-awareness to have that as well, where you can look at that.
Yeah.
Built off some form of resilience in there as well. Okay, chips are down. Get the new chips.
Yeah.
The hobby graveyard.
Yeah.
I've done that one. I'm now going to do the breast cancer one.
Yeah.
And so.
And I think there's definitely that with the hobby graveyard thing, not realizing that, oh, you've done it before and it didn't work out. Doesn't matter. You're just going to try again. You're going to try again. You're going to try again. And I think that's very typical of me.
Yeah. So menopause crashed into your life at roughly the same time that you were exploring with your son and then exploring with yourself. Have I got ADHD? How clear were those lines between those two things?
So the looking into it with my son was actually a couple of years later, which is where where it helped, I think, was because going through the menopause and I was going, oh, I've got brain fog, all of these things that were happening, they were being put down to the menopause symptoms. And it was only when I went through those checks and the checklists and seeing all the other symptoms and realizing those other symptoms were ADHD, they weren't menopause, helped massively to distinguish the two for me. But I think for a lot of people, because I think the menopause probably made the negative side of ADHD worse for me, with things like I struggling to focus, whereas before I could do anything, be anything, I could hyper-focus on one thing and do it so well. And then when the menopause started, it was, you had the ADHD symptoms with the menopause symptoms on top. So while they were sort of overlapping, it was almost double because you had menopause and ADHD. And I think that's probably why a lot of women get diagnosed later in life, is because the negative symptoms probably don't come out as strongly until the menopause.
But of course, when we look back at your childhood, those symptoms that you're referring to that you saw on your son's checklist, you were seeing them presumably in your childhood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And you know, there's that teacher at 17 saying, yeah, I've got the measure of you.
Yeah.
Insightful teaching that.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if only there was more of that. We've argued professionally for quite a while. The child is not coping with their homework and the regimen for homework, and they go home and they're absolutely shattered. They've got no energy for homework. don't make them do it.
Yeah.
You know, if the syllabus can't be covered in the daytime, then, you know, don't put the, is it worth the negative emotion that it brings about, and that battle with the child? You've possibly seen that with your son.
I'm there right now with GCSEs to tutors.
You know, if the lack of a negative battle will be more beneficial than actually writing the answer to these 2 questions that I don't mean much in life. So to separate out the menopause from the ADHD, actually all we've got to do is look at your childhood.
Yeah.
And if we look at your childhood and we see the symptoms there, well, you didn't have the menopause at 17. No. So we shouldn't have a frustration in the diagnostic process if we go about what's called the differential diagnosis appropriately. But you presumably had some lack of clarity there for a while.
Yeah, I think for that it was just getting the diagnosis in the first place. I knew I had it. I could diagnose myself and tell everyone, you know. But if I wanted to explore medication, things like that, obviously I needed an official diagnosis. And I think the first hurdle for me for that was they gave me a form to fill out. And I just thought, are you serious? I've got, you know, there's no way I'm going to fill this out. And it must have been 6 months that sat on the side. And then I think they phoned and said, you haven't brought your form back. Oh, could I get another one? Because I have no idea where it is. It's like, what? So that was a delayed process. And then obviously with going on wait lists on the NHS, and I had to resort to going private because I started really struggling, and it was something where it was my friend that said, oh, have you tried ADHD medication? Because it was really working for her son. And I said, oh no, because I've got to wait 6 years for the diagnosis.
Is that how long it was?
Yeah, so originally when I first went, it was 8 years. And I've gone back recently to try and go from being private to going back on the NHS. And they said the patients they're currently reviewing, and it must be more than that. Sorry, it's 10 years, because they said the last people they're reviewing, they're currently reviewing cases from 2016. So they didn't say there is a wait list of this long. They just said this is when the
2016. How much of life is? Sorry to interrupt you, but this is about you, but it's about so much more than you, isn't it? It's about so many people that are suffering. You were suffering at the time.
I think given how much I was struggling, I just think if I hadn't been in a position to get that private diagnosis, you think the number of people that are struggling, I think one of the things that made me want to go and get that diagnosis was I was self-medicating.
It beggars belief, doesn't it? It really does. And, you know,
it highlights the crisis, right?
It does. It really does. So you've got the menopause. You turned to a private provider for a diagnosis. How did it feel when you got that diagnosis?
So for me, it was just oh, okay, yeah, I knew it. It didn't change anything, but being able to then tell other people and for friends and family to understand why I did some of the things that I did, you know, why I couldn't make a business last longer than 6 months because I got bored of it, and why my house always has piles out because as soon as I put it away, it no longer exists to me. So if people are like, oh, but why don't you just do this? It's like, because I can't. Why can't you, you know, the booking appointments or making phone calls, I can't do it. And I think having people being able to understand that was a massive relief for just getting, I guess, the world to understand my challenges. And it's obviously always faced with, oh, well, you know, just get on with it. It's, you know, part of life. But I was able to look up better ways of doing things, better ways of coping with things, and realizing that doing things the way everybody else had told me to do it wasn't working. So I would just do it my way, and it worked. You know, just changing things around the house.
I was going to say, for other middle-aged mums out there, what kind of things were you struggling with, and when you knew what the problem was, if we could call it a problem, what kind of different coping mechanisms did you domestically put in place? Because I think that will help other people.
I think one of the things was organisation. Is my house was always a mess because I never hung my clothes up. So my clothes were always everywhere. There'd be a laundry bin and there'd just be clothes. And so I went, well, you're never hanging your clothes up. You haven't hung your clothes up for 45 years. why don't you just have a box that you keep your clothes in? So I just have a box in my room and all my clothes go in that. It doesn't
tidy.
it doesn't get sorted by t-shirts, trousers, dresses. It's just a box of clothes. And that works for me. Whereas a lot of people maybe go, just hang them up. And having clear storage boxes. So that everything, I can see it at all times. It doesn't always have to be out, but I can see it. And one of my friends nicknamed me No Lids Linda because I refuse to put a lid on anything, because as soon as the lid's on, it's gone. I've forgotten all about it. Yeah, it's gone. So I think doing little things that, rather than looking at how everyone else was doing it and me trying to do it the same way, looking at what I wanted to get done and how I could do it. And they were very rarely the same thing.
There's so much relatability about you. I love that. It's great. Yeah. The plastic boxes. And there's things that I do that I hadn't even realised were almost like coping mechanisms. Where that whole lid thing is so, and my wife's like that as well. She's actually really organised, but once she's put something away, it's like it's gone. You know, particularly food. It's like it's all organised, but then it's like, actually it's there to eat, but I can't see it. I'll take the things that are more visible.
Yeah, the amount of sort of, and that was something else I bought for that. I bought ingredients. I don't buy jars of food, which makes me sound really, so healthy. No, I just forget they're there.
Yeah.
Whereas if I've just got some paprika, some salt, some soy sauce, those, and I have to make the sauce, or just add it to the food, I do that a lot more, because the amount of jars of food I was throwing away was criminal. It was just, and I was just going, I know I'm never going to use a jar of food if I put it in the cupboard. So just don't do it.
Let's go back to the form.
Yeah.
You were given a form.
Yeah.
When you started talking about it, I thought, I know where this is going. That form's going absolutely bloody nowhere. But I just knew where that was going. It was a delightful start to the tale. Why was that form a challenge for you? Because, and I asked that, we understand, but for other people, why was a single? It's a simple piece of paper. It's 2 sides of A4. Why couldn't you do it?
Questions. It was having to sit down and think and focus on, and also thinking. It felt like a huge pressure as well of, you have to put the right things on that form to get. You can't just put, because why do you think you have ADHD? Because I do. You have to go through, and it just seemed so arduous to have this long form to fill. I mean, I hate filling in forms anyway, but the tick box, I could do that. That was fun. That was, tick some boxes. But when it came to writing out.
When you're ticking boxes, the person with ADHD also sees their progress.
Yeah.
And indeed, right back in the day, 23 years ago when I started this, there was research emerged in that day from both Australia and the UK that said, if you actually put that form on a computer screen, now it would be on a mobile phone, a person with ADHD will actually enjoy taking it on a lot more than they would do if it was on paper. And if you think about a form on a computer screen, you've got to use your mouse. So you've got movement, you've got activity, you're scrolling, you're thinking about scrolling up and down. You've got all of those, and it's a complete piece of form. So you're faced with a task that you weren't particularly looking forward to. Let's take it away from the form into that in life. Faced with a task that you're not particularly looking forward to. It's bureaucracy. It's not your sweet spot. It's not what you like to do. What's your normal approach to that scenario?
Don't do it. Unfinished jobs in my house are...
But it's important.
Yeah. So that, for me, the level of importance makes no difference.
Yeah.
If someone then comes to me and goes, I bet you don't fill that form in by 3 p.m. There's no way you can finish that form by 3 p.m. It will take till at least 6 p.m. That form will be done by 2:30. And it's having that urgency and proving someone wrong is a massive.
And it switches in here, just here. Switches.
It just makes me go, okay.
And
watch me.
Yeah, your empathy there was incredible.
Might relate to it.
Yeah, and I think that switches into the amazing work that you've done that got you the OBE. And all the main commentators, Bob Brooks, Russ Barkley, would say that if you're passionate about something, then you can overcome the deficit of chemicals in the brain. Your
100%,
your brain switches up and uploads more, and you start to achieve.
That brings purpose into it, right?
Absolute purpose.
And that was
drive.
lacking in the things thrown into our head, but the things you'd started and then didn't finish, whereas clearly you went and stood out going, headbutting the horizon with a purpose.
So it's fair to talk about why you succeeded so much to get to meet Princess Anne and get your OBE. What was the journey that got you to there? Because that's an ADHD journey, isn't it?
Yes. And I think a lot of those things so one of the big achievements was getting a petition heard in Parliament that actually got read out. It got all the ayes have it, which was just the best moment for me. And having that done, if I'd done that the right way or the normal way, I'd probably still be sat here waiting for it. But I think the ADHD in me wanted to find the shortest route to get there. And so it wasn't a case of doing, the 100 steps that was needed. I was like, well, I could cut out those 10 and just go straight to that person. So rather than going through sort of 10 different people, I'll just go to them, and then sort of leapfrogging the stages. And I think a lot of it was meeting those people and them being as passionate as me, got it done a lot quicker. And I think just...
And what is it? What is it that you got done quicker?
Banning of home Dopplers. Well, we didn't get them banned, but we got them all reviewed so that they are no longer recommended by the NHS. Public Health England did a review on it. And that was all just something that annoyed me. It was something that I knew would make a big difference to stillbirth rates. And it just bugged me that this was allowed to happen so much. And so I just thought, well, let's do something about it. I didn't think, but you're going to come up against lots of resistance for it. I did the boring bit of putting together a really good case, and Amazon withdrew them from sale, Tesco withdrew them from sale. Mothercare, who were big at the time, they withdrew them from sale. And it was, I think, having those wins along the way was the sort of, it sort of got me to the next bit, to the next bit, to the next bit.
And excuse my ignorance, but I've never experienced what tragically you experienced, a stillborn baby. I've never had that. What is, just connect the dots for me of a home Doppler and the risks of that leading towards.
So a home Doppler, and it's kind of a little bit out. So it's the basis of the charity is awareness of babies' movements.
Okay.
And if the baby starts slowing down, it could be a sign that they're not getting enough oxygen or they're not getting enough nutrition, and that can lead to a stillbirth. And in that time, there is a window when the baby will be slowly deteriorating, and that is the window that you can save a baby. So if you're identified in that stage, what a home Doppler does is you can listen to the baby's heartbeat at home. And what a lot of people do is, if they're worried about their baby, they will listen to their baby's heartbeat and go, okay, the baby's fine, but the baby's not fine, the baby is dying. And I always likened it to, if you saw something, if someone collapsed in front of us, we wouldn't just go, oh, they've got a pulse, right, let's all go down the pub. We would go, oh, we need to get them some medical help because there's something wrong with them. Yes, they've got a heartbeat, and their heartbeat might be completely normal, but there's something else is wrong with them.
Gotcha.
And so these home Dopplers, and they were marketed to mums, but the instruction leaflet inside says they're only to be used by medical professionals. And they've become so popular because people like to listen to their baby's heartbeat. And it was a whole thing of, you're not actually listening to your baby's heartbeat. It's the sound waves bouncing off moving parts. It's an ultrasound device. It's not a microphone, and all of these things. And a lot of the hesitation I got from it was that, but I know what I'm listening to. I know the difference between my heartbeat and my baby's heartbeat. And getting the message across that that's not the point. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is hearing the baby's heartbeat and it being perfectly fine doesn't mean the baby is okay. And so getting that aware, a lot of the campaigning and things was partly to raise awareness as well, so that if we couldn't get them banned, at least people knew
Use them appropriately.
knew the issues.
More of an educational element about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a win-win either way. It went a lot. It was a lot more successful than we thought it would be.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's spin your ADHD into that then.
Yeah.
Because we're in the wind out of time for the for this interview. What part do you think your ADHD played in the success of that campaign?
The spike, the people saying, "Oh, but I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing." Me going, "No, you don't." And it's for the It was for the best. But the number of people coming back telling me that I was a killjoy because, you know, I was ruining their fun by they just want to listen to their baby's heartbeat at home, and all the negative responses that I got, I think, are what fueled me on.
And where did you get your energy?
I have no idea.
It's there.
I think it was, so when you hear a story of somebody whose baby could have been saved, that is a massive motivator of, and you hear stories of babies that have been saved, which is almost like the reward, but the babies that died that could have been saved are the motivator. So, and that will always exist. And I think until, at the moment, the stillbirth rate is so high. It's, you know, a lot of people, I've got a graph that I show people of the number of babies that die from sudden infant death syndrome, cancer, road deaths, all of that. And the number of babies that are stillborn is 15 times more than all of those combined. So it's a huge number, and a lot of people don't talk about it because it's
it's difficult emotionally, isn't it?
But I think for me, I'm not even close to having completed the task, so I will keep going.
Do you believe?
Do you know what? I've got to jump in there though, hearing that back with all these the hobby graveyard. But this is a constant.
This is not going in the graveyard, is it?
No.
So is there a hyper focus there?
There is definitely a hyper focus, and I think there is. I have wanes. I have period where I just go, "Oh, I'm so tired. I'm not making any difference. The stillbirth rate's still so high," and then something will happen, and I'll get it back again. And I think riding that out is the key of. I could never give it up, and so I'm sort of forced to ride out those lows. Whereas in other things, you know, making candles and selling them on Etsy, I didn't need to ride out that low. I just put them in the garage.
But this is legacy work, right?
Yeah.
This is bigger than you.
Well, yeah.
So
and I think if we've come close to closing a couple of times because funding is so difficult. And when I said that a couple of times, the response I've gone, whoa, okay, I didn't realize how many people cared about this, how many people it affects. And yeah, so, but it is the one sort of anomaly, I'd say, in my ADHD.
I don't think it's an anomaly at all. I think it is the classic where you've truly got motivated. It's flipped the switch in your brain to a higher chemical level to give you that drive, the motivation, the ability to focus, concentrate. I believe your OBE is not for you. I think it's for what you stand for. And I believe that, I don't know, but I can only imagine when you were in front of Princess Anne, you were proud for the cause as much as you were proud
and how
for
much
yourself.
And what she knew about it as well was really.
You are an incredibly successful woman, late diagnosis ADHD. It strikes me that you'll be, when this goes out, you'll be a beacon for many other people in your position, and at the same time will raise awareness of the cause that you champion, but you're able to champion perhaps because of your ADHD.
Yeah, I think definitely.
And I think that's a great strength and a strong message for middle-aged women. Hugely powerful story, very successful towards the end of the story thus far. There's more to come. It's been a brilliant interview. No, it will. Brilliant interview. You're a survivor, and there's a lot of space for survivors.
Thank you.